What if living on purpose and living true to self wasn't so much about finding your purpose or finding your truth, but it's more about creating a foundation so that your truth and your purpose arises naturally, right? Like, what if? I want to open the door to that today, and I want to share 5 practices, 5 steps maybe, or 5 tools that allow us to build a foundation within ourselves that allows for our like wild, authentic, full self to arise, that allows for innate soul gifts to just organically arise, that allows for like the next step on our breadcrumb trail, I call it, right? The next breadcrumb on that breadcrumb trail reveals itself, that next step on your destiny path, or like following your bliss. But how do we create a foundation so that we can feel our bliss, so that we can be discerning about what is a soul calling and what is little patterned egoical self, right? This is a question that I get asked so often in in-person events and online events is, Sabrina, how can I tell the difference between like soul calling and egoical self calling? And part of it is, yes, that's a valid question. That's a beautiful question. And if that's something that you really want to dive into, let me know in the comments below. So if you're on the YouTube video, just leave a comment below and go like, yes, that topic, I want that. But there's another question to that. So that's something we can explore. But what if we were to reframe that and go, if I set up a foundation that supports deep, true, authentic, full soul, full expression of self, if I set up a foundation that's so true to that, then that question becomes null and void almost, right? That question of what's the difference between the two, it's that it doesn't matter, because your whole being, your whole life, your whole energetic system, your emotional system, your mental system becomes so aligned with deeper, truer, more authentic, more soulful living, more purposeful living. That's a word that some people, more love-filled living, right? So my aim in sharing these 5 steps or tools or practices is to give us this building of a foundation so that life gets lived from this place. It's not this tough mental thought place where we're weighing out options and we're trying to feel into, I can't tell, I can't hear, I don't know what my intuition is saying, I don't know what my soul self is saying, I don't know what the highest decision is to make in this place. Instead, we create the wiring where that is just where we act from. Right? That is where we create from. That is where we love from, right? Can you see how that's different? This is exciting to me. So I want to share these practices with you. And what do I want to do first? There was something else that I wanted to share with you. I don't know what it is. If it comes back, I'll share it. But let's go into these practices. First of the 5 practices is when we are building that foundation to live from deep, true, full, authentic, soulful self, we are needing and we are required to strip away that which is absorbed, that which is conditioned, that which is patterned in us. So what the heck do I mean by that? Sometimes we think that we have to find our purpose or we have to find our truth. What if it's also a case of we just have to release that which is not deeply, truly, authentically us? So there's a part of this that's a letting go of that which was placed on us. So feel into that for yourself. What was placed onto you? What expectations have been placed onto you? What family conditioning has been placed onto you? Like maybe think of the role that was placed onto you. So for me, I was the oldest child in the family. A role that was placed onto me was Sabrina will be the matriarchy that takes over my grandmother's role of matriarchy. And it was a role placed, expected. I was groomed for it. And it was something I had to peel away, something I had to release, something I had to let go of. Not saying that that couldn't have been authentically, deeply, truly, fully me or a part of my deep, true, full expression, but it wasn't. It wasn't. So that's one piece of the puzzle, and there are a lot of different practices to do this. I suggest practices that take us way beyond the mental realms because there are unconscious, absorbed conditioning, absorbed patterns that we've taken on, not just from family, but from our society, from our friend circles growing up, from our social groups, from the collective. So there are many, 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 many different places that these patterns are. And so I always recommend going into practices, spaces that will get you beyond just the mental realm. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is in this coming into deep, true, full, authentic self, we will have to face things that we are afraid to be, things that we authentically are, we long to express, we long to explore, we long to uncover, we long to liberate. There are parts of self that we long to liberate. There are ways of being in the world that we long to experience, but we are deathly afraid of them. Now this, again, yes, we can go in through like talk therapy and we can go in through reflection, but we're going to want to get into some of the more unconscious realms. We're going to want to find ways to get into places of fear around. Here's a great example for women. There are many women who are longing to have a child, but unconsciously, somewhere deep buried within, are deathly afraid of having a child. And it's an irrational fear of maybe loss. My gosh, if I have this child, if I create this being in this life and I begin to express love in this way, it will be ripped away from me, right? And it's very deeply hidden. It's very deeply hidden. But what will happen is it will a lot of times block or prevent us from stepping into what is authentically fully us. And it is part of what we came here to experience or to express or to create in this world. It is like the thing that will fill us so much. And some of us can relate to it via relationship. Like I want relationship and love so, I know I'm longing for it. I know that like that is a deep desire in myself, but there's a fear that keeps that from coming into our lives, coming into our experiences, coming into our expressions. So number two is finding ways to face our fears, face our fears, face our fears. For me, I'll give one last example on this. One of my greatest fears was speaking about anything in the esoteric realm. Deathly afraid of it. Deathly afraid of it. And for no logical reason. I have no reason from this life's experiences to be that afraid to step into what I do for a living, really, right? Is talk about the hidden realms, talk about the unseen, talk about the divine feminine, talk about Shakti and Kundalini and the divine masculine and sacred union, like talk about the divine. I was deathly afraid of it. So afraid that I would lie. I would lie about what I was doing on the weekend. I would say I was at a yoga retreat instead of I was in a shamanic circle drumming and in an altered state of consciousness for 2 days, right? I would say I was doing yoga. So I want to share that because I often witness that individuals, sometimes some of our greatest gifts and our greatest ways of being and the things that fill us the most and are the most true to us and the most authentic to our souls are the things that we fear the deepest. All right, so that's number 2, face our fears. Number 3, this is an interesting one, and it's kind of myth busting a little bit around this. When we are stepping into like our destined path, our deeper callings, our authentic, full, soulful expression, there's sometimes this belief system that it should be easy, that it should just flow smoothly, that it should be handed to us. And I'm gonna call BS on that. That is not how it goes. That is a really big myth, a very common belief system that if it's meant for me, it will come easy. I don't know where that came from. I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid that is. I don't know who made it, but I think we should stop drinking it. Sometimes it's a Saturnian journey. Sometimes the things that are really meant for us, that are deeply, authentically, truly ours, requires some work, requires some dedication, some commitment, some devotion, some one foot in front of the other up a really big hill. Sometimes that is the case. Sometimes that is part of the journey. Sometimes it is not. Just because it's meant for us and it is a deep, true, authentic longing and calling doesn't mean that it's going to be handed to you on a silver freaking platter. So I want to call that out. And really step number 3 is honor these challenges. Honor the challenges and let go of the fact that if it's meant for me, it'll be delivered to me by the fairy godmother from another place, right? And part of that is, part of what that gives us is soul stamina, is like this capacity and this deepening into knowing what is true for us, And if you think about something you've had to work to earn, and I'm not saying that we have to work to earn all of these at all. It is not one or the other. It's just that I'm opening up the door that sometimes it happens, just poof, there it is, right? But sometimes it's that we have to work to earn it. And so I want to open that door as step number 3, tool number 3, mindset number 3, to just honor it. And if it's true for us, we stick with it and we keep asking the question, is this true? Is this true? Is this part of my full expression? Yeah, there are parts of my full expression that I had to fucking fight for, that I had to fight my own demons for, right? It's almost refers back to point number 2, facing my fears, right? There are parts that I had to fight for. I had to, sometimes ReWilding, this was a ReWilding for Women retreat. There was a woman who referred to it as Fight Club for Women. This is like a fight club for women, but I'm fighting myself. I'm fighting myself. And so just honoring that sometimes we do have to fight for it. Sometimes we do have to put in the effort and we do have to put in the time. And it is like slogging through thick mud to get to what it is that we are most longing for, that is calling us, that is part of our wild, authentic, full expression of self. All right. Number 4. I love this one. This one's fun. I just did practice on this actually. The point or the tool or the practice is called honoring, knowing what you crave, what you long for, and what you're yearning for. I was in my chiropractor's office the other day, and we were having a conversation around sexuality. And he said this line that I loved, and he goes, we are in a state collectively around sexuality where most people don't even know what they want, like what they truly are like yearning for or craving. And I find that to go way beyond sexual expression. I find that to go into so much more. And so feeling into this place of yearnings and cravings and longings often come with a bit of pain, or at least they're uncomfortable, because I'm longing. And let's feel into this for a moment. This was the practice I just shared before this, creating this little conversation in this video with you, is if you're in a feminine moment, we all have masculine and feminine moments, but if you're in a feminine moment or more feminine identified, you will be longing for love. You will be longing for love. You will be longing for relationship, for connection. You'll be longing for that. And so just let yourself feel that for a moment, like your heart. Go to your heart space and just feel the longing to be met. That's something that I hear feminine identified beings say a lot, is I'm longing to be met. I'm longing to be met. I just want to be met, right? I'm longing to give love. I'm longing to feel love. I'm longing for that. Okay, so now let's shift over and feel into masculine. So in a masculine moment, it's I'm longing. There's a few different words here. It's funny to get my being to shift over so I can express this properly. So when I'm in a masculine moment, I'm longing to be on purpose, right? I'm longing to be purposeful, meaningful. I'm longing to be I'm longing to make things happen, right? That's typically what we're longing for. Or on another level, we're longing for nothingness, like longing for peace, longing for emptiness. Nothingness is another, it's like a higher octave of that, right? There's many octaves. The feminine, if we were going to go up to that octave of the feminine, just to kind of keep it equal here, or a bit equal anyways, is this longing for the all of everything. And there's a longing to be the all of everything, to feel full, like I'm so full. I am life. I am everything. And there's a longing to be that, right? That we don't always feel those, so it's easier to come down an octave and go, I'm longing for love, or I'm longing for meaning, I'm longing to be valued. That's oftentimes words that you'll hear in a masculine moment. They're hard to say or admit to, but like, I'm longing to be valued, like, but just please value me, right? Please value, find meaning in what I've done here, a bit of gratitude for what I've done. Let this be purposeful, let this be meaningful. Okay, so this opening that door and getting comfortable, because in that longing and in that craving is guidance, is the calling. It is if those are like big themes, I've just explored some big themes and some different octaves of things. But once that door is open to like deepest longings, they start to refine themselves and they start to define themselves. So it starts to be, okay, I'm longing for love. And then you can bring it down and you can narrow it down. Okay, from this like deep, authentic longing place, wow, I'm longing to have physical contact. That's what's going to feel like love. I'm longing for physical touch. I'm longing for intimate body on body connection. I'm just giving an example. It's probably the one I'm longing for right now, though, if it's the one I'm feeling it. But you can feel into it for yourself, and you can go into, right? You can go on the other side and go, okay, I'm longing to find purpose. I'm longing to find meaning, right? And if I go deeper into that and I ask for it to be distilled and refined and defined a little bit, for me in this moment, it would be like, this is so simple. I'm longing for this creation that you and I are in right now, this YouTube video, this podcast, wherever you're hanging out with me. I'm longing for this to be meaningful. I'm longing for this to serve you in some way. That's my masculine longing, is I'm longing for this to be of service, to be of value, to be purposeful, right? That's my longing. So by the way, if it is, you could let me know, and you could give my masculine a little bit of, I don't know, recognition, because it likes recognition. You can do that by hitting the thumbs up, the like, by subscribing, by hitting the bell so you get all these future videos that I put out, and leaving a comment below of, wow, I really identified with the feminine longing, or I really identified with the masculine longing. I'd love to hear like which one you are feeling more, which one you're feeling more. Okay. That was a fun little exploration of the masculine and the feminine. By the way, there are many more explorations on masculine and feminine energy. If you look up here in the corner, there will be a video link if you want to jump over and keep going into masculine and feminine explorations. But I want to give you practice number 5, because it's quite possibly the most important one. And this is where I see people stop. I see people do the first 4, right? And variations of those 4, and do many other things for this foundational setting to live life from this place. But then they don't do 5. They stop. And like, it's like the embodiment of it will never happen. The expression of it will never happen if we don't do number 5. So, okay, can I invite you to something quick? I know, I'm so terrible, but I want to invite you to this before you switch off the video. So I'm going to share number 5 in a second. But this whole video is sponsored by the program Living Close to the Bone. It's a soul-based program where we do all of these practices. We do all of these things to go beyond the mental realm, to strip away the false, to strip away the condition, to strip away the family patterning. We go into practices that help face our fears, the unconscious fears, the fears that we don't even know, that go into where are our upper limits, how are we blocking ourselves. We go into this building of soul stamina, the building of the stamina to kind of rebel, to be able to stand in our own truth against external forces, and to be able to walk through the fire, right? Walk through the fire and walk through the challenges that come with living this wild, soulful, authentic expression of self. So that's my invitation. You'll find details up here in the corner. You'll also find a link below. It's a big, beautiful community. It's a deep diving program. It's live trainings with me every month. It's workshops, experiential journeys, it's lectures, it's interactive Q&A sessions. It's a program that's coming from the heart. And it's coming from all the years of holding spaces like this, of, dare I say, giving transmissions around this energy. And there's a wild thing around this program that is kind of an unseen, esoteric, I don't know what words to put to this because now I'm starting to sound all woo-woo, la-la. Basically, the energetics of this container is going to grab us by the scruff of the neck, and it's going to hold us to soul truths. I talk so often about the need for soul groups and soul friends and soul guides and soul guardians and soul spaces and soul practices where, like, they hold your soul above all else. They hold your full unfolding, your full soul's expression above everything else. It's more important to this group, this journey, this path, this friend, this whatever, than your little egoical self's feelings, right? Like this is what it is in support of. And I created this program and I'm holding this space because this is what I wish I would have had 10 years ago. This is the space that would have helped me 10 years ago, when I didn't have friends or community or even teachers that really held my soul in the highest regard, held my soul in a higher regard than my little egoical self, right? So this may or may not be something that sings to you, but finding those soul groups, finding those soul programs, finding those soul friends, finding those spaces, right? Those spaces and those practices and those people and those communities and those energetics that just love the soul out of, like, that just really, like, yes, give us all of you, right? Give us all of you, where there is no tall poppy syndrome or competitive feeling of like, well, if you're in your fullness, that's gonna somehow diminish my, no. You in your fullness inspires, encourages, and gifts everyone to be in their fullness, right? That is the greatest gift that you can give this world, is you to be in your wild, authentic, full expression. And so maybe you have soul friends or soul groups or some other place, but if you don't, or if you want another one, think about living close to the bone. Think about joining this membership, this program, this community. You are so incredibly welcome to. Really, 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 really and truly, from my heart, you are so welcome to. Okay, whew, that was my big invitation. Now let me get to point 5. So remember, I was sharing that I see a lot of people doing foundation building, those 4 steps that we talked about before. I won't go over them again. And then if 5 isn't activated or being lived from or opened to, or we're not then expressing, we're not embodying it, we're not expressing it, we're not grounding it, we're not bringing it into the world, right? And this is acting on it, moving through the world from this place, making decisions from this place, right? So often and you could probably relate, I can relate, right? So often I've had intuitive knowings. We'll just stick with intuitive knowings. I was going to go to soul callings, but then we start to go like, I don't know if I've ever had one of those. We've all had them, right? But we'll stick with intuitive knowings because it's an easier one to relate to. So like, how many times have you had like a gut feel or an intuitive knowing, but you overrode it or you didn't act on it, right? You didn't act on it. So step 5 is creating this like feeling, knowing space, right? We create the foundations. We start to get a sense of, wow, I'm actually really being called to move house. I'm actually really being called to explore other job opportunities. I'm really being called to join this group, living close to the bone. I'm just kidding. I'm not really. Maybe that's your truth. I'm really being called to go on this sojourn. I'm really being called to read this book. I'm really being called to whatever it is. It could be very tiny little things, right? Like get up and go for a walk right now. I'm really being called to this, but we don't act on it. We don't act on it. So step 5 is you create, and you can only do this by the doing of it, by the actual, I get the feel and I take the action. And the more we do it, the more that rhythm becomes natural to us. The more that action just naturally happens. I feel it, it's true, I know it, and I act on it, right? I feel it, maybe I think about it, but then I feel it. However our flow is, we're all very different. But then I have the knowing, I somehow get to the place where it doesn't mean that the mind isn't still poking at it and saying, this isn't logical, this isn't rational, right? It's not that it doesn't stop doing that. That's the monkey mind. It'll always do that. But from this deep inner, like more soulful place, more this deeper true self place, right? And it just goes, hey, this, and we act on it. We follow it. We trust it. What we do there is we build that trust muscle. We build the trust muscle in soul, in like deeper wisdom in our beings, in our guidance system that is always there, always talking, always guiding us. It is an internal guidance system, and it is always guiding you into your fullest, freest, most authentic expression, always. We simply have to turn the switches, shift the wiring, open the channels so that we can hear it, and so that we have the stamina to live it, and so that we have that trust built in so that we can act from it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's what we're doing in living close to the bone. That's what you can do on your own in the ways that you're called to. But it's that. It's that. It's that. It's not finding the surface level, finding my purpose. It's not a purpose. It's purposes that arise in the moment, callings that arise in the moment. Some callings are long-term callings. Some callings are in the moment. How am I being called to be? Some are things are not even doing. They're just, it's being. It's being. For some of us, at some moments of our life, our deepest, truest, most authentic expression isn't a doing thing. It's a being. I am simply called to be this in this moment. Whew. Wow. Beautiful. I encourage you, if you feel, to watch more videos, if you feel to do this if you feel to be surrounded and supported by a community and to be led into practices, some of those deeper practices that go into more of the unconscious realms, that go into the building of the stamina, that go into the opening up of these channels and the rewiring. Really, really, really invite you to join us in Living Close to the Bone. It would be an honor.